What we want to add to what we have done so far is not much. This session is just actually to assess what we have done and show us how to replicate the same thing we have done to design other pages. So that is actually what I planned. Now, though I'm using another system, but I know that in the other system, we have already designed the footer. I think the footer was the last session that we designed, and we have to where we looked at how to also add font awesome icons, right? Flourish, I think you can confirm that now. You were in that class.
Yes, I'm trying to fix this volume.
Okay, so at least you can hear me for now. So
Small.
this is what we have designed. This is a kind of we have designed the navigation bar, and the assignment I gave to us was to go and consult the Font Awesome to be able to incorporate the social media instead of representing them with their names like this, because we have treated that topic. And then peradventure, you also want to display them in the footer section, then you should also go ahead and achieve that, of which some of us said that we have not implemented. So I will just show us briefly what I want us to do, and then we will end the section. Then you go back and go and develop everything before the next class, because the next class we are supposed to look at CSS animation before we start JavaScript. So by Thursday, we should be able to start and, if possible, finish CSS animation. And then we can now start JavaScript. So that is the plan. So what I have left to show us here is now, if you click on the Home tab, you see that you have this content. But if we go to About, we have no content. Do we have content there? Let me see. Yeah, if they are not sure, it means we must have added hash. So let me check the code section just to explain. Let's look at the navigation. Yeah, so you can see the reason why they were not showing us empty browser is because we added this hash. So let me remove the hash from them. Please, before the next class, I expect every one of us to have implemented this, including the guy that is not here. Is going to get the video. So if you click on home, we have this content. That is, so this is an assumption that we have our footer already designed. We have the body section also designed. And then we have the navigation bar design. So we have a complete landing page. That is what it means now. Now, how do I now create other pages? So as we are clicking here, you can see that I'm still wondering why that is not showing, because we have not created the file. I hope I'm running the right file. Let me run this on again. I expected to get a blank browser. Let me close some of this. So something is not responding on my browser. What I'm trying to explain here is that we have this content because if you check our file structure, we have only index file. We have not created about.html. We have not created other link. We have not created contact.html. We have not created services.html. The same thing with gallery.html. So we have only created this. So I expect that as we browse this website, when you click on home, you see this. But once you click on about, we are not expected to see any content. But I think my browser is the one not giving us what is expected. So what we are saying is that how do I now make other pages? How do I now make other pages? So let me add the right link. So let's say we have about.html. And then let's say we have contacts.html. We have services. I can just say service.html. And then we have the gallery.html. So now let me check again. So you can see what I am saying here. You see, once you click on any of these tabs, this menu outside home is the landing page, which is the page we have already designed. Now, but once the user click here, any of this link, they are going to get empty browser. So, which means that we have not designed the file, we have not designed these other pages, and that is what I want to show us. And then after that, then you will now go and start creating your website, and make sure that before the next class, all these should have content, and the content should be different. The content should be different. You talk about your brand, then use the form that you have been taught when we were dealing with the HTML tag and CSS basic to create a contact form, and then use publish your services as well. And the gallery is where you showcase some of the things you have achieved. That is what you put under your gallery. So please, that is going to be your project, which should be ready before Thursday section. Like I said, Thursday, I'm going to introduce us to CSS animation, and then we will now go to JavaScript in that should be next week. So what we have to conclude this week is what I just explained now, for the sake of the person just joining. What you do, like I said, you are going to create content for other pages, because right now you only have content for home page. If I go to About Us, no content. If I go to Contact, no content. If I go to Services, no content. If I go to Gallery, no content. So your project is to go and create content. I've given us this project before. So if you have not done it, you go and do it. And for Mr. Ehen, that is not here, that will get the video, he has not done that before. So he has to follow the steps and get it done as well. But he has done form, he has done most of those tags as well. So let's assume that I want to create content for other pages. Well, let me start with the About Us page. So what I'm going to do is to go back to the index, and then to avoid typographical error, copy the link of the page you want to create its content. Because at times when you try to type it, you might make mistake, and then you discover that the pages are not linked. So copy it from here, and then while you are in your index page, which is the first page, go to File, select Save As. Make sure that you are still in that folder. Then that link that you copy, Control V, you paste it. Now, where this file type is already showing HTML, you do not need to put the .html. Just type what? The about, because this will complete it. But even if you leave it, there's not going to be any issue. But just I'll try to show all the standard practice. So you click on Save. All right, so you can see that now you have added another file, about. So if I go back to the front end and click here, I have this content. If I click on about, I have the same content. Because the way your website should be programmed, that is the reason why I told us to spend quality time to put your landing page in order. Because once you have designed the landing page, it's as if you have designed other pages 50%, because other pages are expected to have the navigation bar. So you are not going to spend any time to create your navbar. Then if you have also completed your footer, other pages are also expected to inherit that same footer, which means that out of the 3 sections that we talk about, you only have in other pages, you only have the body section to what? Re-engineer. You are not going to tamper with the navigation bar. You are not going to tamper with the footer. So you just go straight to the body section and define a different layout. It's just like somebody entering this room, seeing the way you arrange your chairs and other things, and then getting to another room, which is like the about us. The person now sees the same arrangement. The website is going to look boring. The person wants to be seeing different concepts as they move from your pages. So for that reason, once you have saved the pages, some developer will create all the pages and take their time to go and start editing them one after the other, which means I can also come here and copy this, then copy. Then after that, I'll make sure that I am in the index file. Please take note of that. Don't save this one as forward the contact.html. Always go back to the index. Then you select save as, and then you ensure also that you are in your root folder, and then you paste just like what we did before. Because I am having my HTML extension here already as my file type, there's no point of adding that. I will just click, and then you see them here. So right now we have duplicated the index page or index file for about and for contact. So I just want to follow that standard. So let me also do for the rest before we start editing. So you can also go this way when you are doing your project. So now I want to also create a page or content for this. So remember, you always go back to your index. Don't forget, always go back to your index and then go to save as. The same process so that it will stick. Make sure that you are in that folder and then Control V. Then remove this. Like I said, even if you don't remove it, there will not be any issue, but we only try to follow the standard. So we have added additional 3 pages. So let's add the last one. So sometimes you can go like this, get all your pages duplicated or created with the home page or the index page, then before you can now sit down and start re-engineering each of those pages. So I'll go back to the index, and then go back to the file, select save as, and then I'll make sure that I'm in the folder also, and then paste, then remove this if I want. So with this, I have already created all the pages. So if I go back to the front end and I start clicking, I'll be having the same copy of my home page. So meanwhile, the pages are supposed to be changing. So what I'm going to do now is for me to go into those pages one after the other and start modifying. So I will decide to follow a particular order so that I don't skip anyone. So let me start from this one, about. So I'll go to the about. Now, since I told us that we are retaining the CSS, this CSS file, because definitely when you copy, you copied everything. When you copied everything, which means that what? Both the CSS that we used to style the section you are retaining are also what? Existing. So you don't delete this line. Then you now come down. This is the navigation bar. Remember where your nav bar started from. I think your nav bar start from somewhere here. Start from here. So you should be able to know where it stopped. That is why it's important when you were developing, you use comment where the nav bar stop. You say nav bar stop here, then body start from here. So that, because we are going to go there now, this is where the body start from, which is the card. So the whole of this down to the footer. So let's say you have created your footer and you have also identified where your footer started from. So as you are going, once you get to where that footer is, you take it off. So now this is the card. In my own case here, I have not designed the footer. Like I told us, I'm using another system. So the file there is complete. So if I delete this, sorry. Come, trying to work on my video. All right, so like I was saying, I wanted to delete the whole of the card section. So, but first we need to identify where the card started from. So since you are copying and pasting, so you are going to highlight, so you should know where your footer stop. You should know where your card stop. But in my own case, like I was saying, I have no footer, so I clear this off. So if I go back to the front end of this about us, you see that I have only the header remaining, which is the navigation bar remaining, right? So it is now left for me to have a different design for this about. What is about us? This is where you talk about your brand, your business, your company. So you must not use the same format that you use here. In fact, this is just like an e-commerce concept where we want them to see the products display in the homepage. But if you were to be maybe not e-commerce site like maybe portfolio website, or even it can be e-commerce website, and decide not to publish all your products in your homepage, probably you have a shop page or product page where you are supposed to use this kind of format. So your home page will not look very simple. Just put your basic information there and then say something briefly about yourself. Put one big image that is probably speaking your services, and they add what? Learn more. So ordinarily, if it is not an objective to showcase your pictures, the homepage is not supposed to be crowded like this. But there are some e-commerce websites where they actually want to make sure that the client sees their product as soon as they get to their homepage, that will have this layout. So your homepage may not be this layout. In fact, your homepage, you shouldn't use this. I've taught us different layer. Your homepage, you can just put, maybe just come up with a section, and that section should talk about, it should be kind of brief introduction about your company, and then under it, maybe have an image. After the image, you put learn more button, then footer follow. Very simple homepage. Or you do the image overlay. That is what you just have a background image that speak your services, then do some write-up on it, position those write-up at the center of the page, and then put the learn more button at the bottom for them to navigate. Then you will now have either this structure now, you will now use it in your service page or in your products. So you can bring in products instead of services. Then this layout will not be there. This layout will not be there. Now, I just want to, now, like your About Us page now, remember that we just deleted the content. So now I want to build the content. So let's assume that we want to create a div. So I'll create a div, and then, like I said, I will just put here a comment that contact body starts here. So a way of just reminding myself, so in case I want to manipulate. Now I will also class this div as contact underscore body. All right, now I need another CSS that will be dedicated for just this contact page body section that I want to design, which should be different from the CSS that is controlling the navbar that we inherited, and the footer probably that we also inherited. So we need to add another CSS. So I will now go to my CSS and then make another CSS inside it, and I will name it CSS for styling about. So for that reason, I will say about.what CSS. So which means that this particular CSS that I want to create here, they are going to use to style only the about. So which means that I will now go to the about and go to where I linked the other one, which is in the head, and also link this one there. So you can link as many as possible CSS in the same file. So I'll do the same thing, link, and then I'll slash, then contact my CSS folder, and then select what? My about.css. All right, so now, which means that anytime I want to style whatever I am going to build here, I'll be doing that in the about.css file, not in the index.css. That one is for the index page and the navigation that we inherited. So I can just come, like I said, so inside this, I can just have another sub div based on the layout you want, another sub div. But because we have this card layer, I don't want card layout in the about. Like I said, the about is just to say something about yourself. Okay, so let me have a div. What I will do is that I will not flex it so that it doesn't give us vertical display. So based on what I want to achieve with this div, I can just class it with that name. So this is I can name this about section. About section. Can name it about section. Now, what do I want inside this? I want an image. I will say img. Then reference where I have the image from my image folder. So I have this. So if I go to the front end to check, I have added this image. Now, because I have a kind of card structure in my home, so we just make sure that this image will not display vertical. So I'll go to that. Remember that we can use this to reference the image, just like we did the other time. So this is just like we are using parent to talk to the child. So I'll go to the about.css, and then I will just, as usual, I could just say styling the about section image, for example. And remember that you have copied it, you just put dots and Ctrl V. Then I'll open my CSS. So the first thing is the width of the picture. I want the width to be, let's say 100%. Let's say 100%. So let's check now whether we have it done. 100%. So dot about section. So let's check whether the, okay, no. The reference is wrong. So since we are using the parent to access it, this is how we'll call it. We'll say, we space here, I'll say img to indicate that you are talking to the picture inside this element. So let's go back there and check. So we have it. So I want this. Now, this is where you have to be careful with the picture you are using. You can see that as I stretch this picture is blur. It's not real, it's not sharp. So you can look for a better picture, or you better say that, okay, it should not be 100%. Let me also add some height. Let's say I'm adding height of 500 ps, just say for instance. Let's see whether that will kind of correct it. Then the width will no longer be 100%. So let's say the width should be 70%. I'm just trying to troubleshoot something. Good. I think this is better. Then, but we have to position this at the center of the page. We have to position this at the center of the page. So to position this at the center of the page, we are going to talk to the container that is holding it. So if we go back to our page, you see that this image is inside this container, and this container is a block element which is currently taking 100% of the width. So first of all, reduce the width of this, then float everything with what? Margin auto, so that we can place it at the center of the page. So which means that I have to first of all talk to that container. I have to talk to the main container itself first to reduce the width so that it can allow movement. So I will say width, since you are currently 100%, I want you to reduce to 80%. So once we have that, now we can now say this same container, margin auto. Remember, these are some of the things we have learned. Margin auto. So you see that what? That moved it, but because of my system shape, that is a landscape, that is why it's as if it's not at the center. But definitely if you open it on a mobile phone, it will be at the center. But if I still want to achieve that myself, then which I'm not certain whether on phone it will be at the center, because right now it's as if you are working with the screen size. Now, if I would have to do margin left, then I will now manually push it. I'll say, okay, let me look at 20% and see where it will be. Okay, so 20% look as if it's positioned at the middle. So now I need to move it from the top. Since it's no longer 100%, I want some allowance. I want some space. between this image and the navigation bar. I don't want it to be touching the navigation bar. So what I'm going to do here is to specify margin. I can just say what? Margin, push it from the top. Margin top, I want space of 30 ps. So let's look at the space that we generate. Okay, so that has given us a reasonable space. Now, but after that, I want this picture to have a rounded corner. It to look more, presentable. So since it's a picture I'm talking to, I'll come back here. This is where I'm selecting the picture. So I'll say border radius. Border radius, so I can just say border radius of 10 ps. Border radius of 10 ps. So if you come back here, you get at least it's better position. So now the next thing I want to achieve is to have a write-up, which we say about us. But what I actually wanted before is a choice. You can decide to have the write-up on top and the picture under, or you have the write-up immediately after the picture. So since we have already worked with this structure, let's go there and add the write-up under it. So this is the div. Remember that you are still inside this div, so that whatever I'm creating, I want it to also be centralized. Remember, it's the container. It is the container that we moved. So, and this container is still inside what? This. So if I want the write-up to come here under that image directly, then you are going to put break here, remember, so that when you bring in paragraph, let's say you want to, or let's say you bring in another heading tag, let's say you bring in, let's say H2. Let's say you bring in H2, and that H2 just to say about us. Sometimes you can call the name of the company, about the name of the company. So if I go back to the front end, you see it under it. And then remember that you are still going to use your CSS. Now, why I wrote it here in this div instead of the first div, so that I don't have to start, moving everything to the center. Because in as much you have already moved this one, if you write this code or outside that div, then it will come somewhere here. Then you now start moving to the center. So I just want everything to be wrapped in that div. So I will now have, just like you are using a single card. So paragraph tag, you say something about your business. So let's just use a lorem just to create a random text just to fill it up. Give us 200 tests. So if I go back to the front end now, you can see that I have a lot of content. Now the content tend to what? To span. Because we say the div itself has 80% width, but out of that 80%, the image is using 70% or something less than that. So if I want to constrain this, then that would be in CSS, I will reduce the width of that paragraph tag to the width of what? To the width I have given to. So let me class it and see whether I'll be able to talk to it easier. Or I use the same parent. I will say, let's go and use the same parent since we don't have two paragraph tag inside. So I'll just copy this syntax. I'll just copy in this syntax. Control C. Then come under here, Control V. Then the only thing I am going to change is this. I'll change this to P because this time around, I'm talking to another element that is also inside this container. So I'll delete this property. Delete this property. So the width of that, because when you declare it is 100%, so I want to constrain the width to 70% and see what that is going to generate. So if I go back there, you can see that what I have automatically limited it to the size of the image, because I just want everything to be at the middle. There is a plan. The plan is that I will use page background that will have another image that could be speaking that will fill up this. So all this content will just be at the middle. So it's an idea, or you leave it at the middle like this. So now this content, I want to distribute them evenly. I want to distribute them evenly. So if I say, if I do test align and I say justify, let's see what that will give us. Good, perfect. So you can see that it's now in a proper block form, unlike the way it was. Some lines were longer than some, particularly those ones that are very close to each other. So you have a more user-friendly, and then you can now work on your color. Maybe you change the color to white. All these are things you can do. So do your color combination very well. Let's say this, and then right, then this about, you need to check whether this color will also go. If it doesn't, you can also change it. So what I'm going to do to speak to it, I'll copy this format also, Control C. So you can see the way I am designing my About Us page now. That is how you pick each of those pages and define different concepts. So that is where the work is. So that project should be ready before the next class. So this time around, I'm talking to H2 inside that same container. What do I want in this element? I just want the color to change first. So let me change the color to white also, and change the color to white also. I want uniformity here. After all, it's a little bit bolder than the rest. Then I can also decide to say, okay, I want to slant it. That is a font style. I will say italic, and then I'll check. Okay, so this look more mature. Now, another thing again is that maybe from here, since it's an e-commerce website, from here I can decide to say, okay, there should be a link for them to go to product page to buy products after I've said something about myself, then, which means that we are going back to our code structure, HTML structure, while we are still inside. So like I told us, this is just like a single card we are using to position our item at the middle. So the reason why I don't want to add break here, the way I added break the other time after email, because I'm working with block element. The P tag is a block element. There's no way what I want to create can continue from where I stop. So I will just say a tag, and then this is going to take them to product.html. And then just to add description, I'll say learn more. Then if you go back there and click and say you have your learn more, now remember you start your CSS. So the anchor tag is still inside here. So you now come here and paste what we copied before, and then just change here to A. So you can see the way, because all my items are packaged in a div. That is why I'm using the parent class to talk to them without going there to start classing them one after the other. So we can talk about width here. Let me remove this. I will just say background, because I want it to look like a button. So background, we just say with background, I'll look at blue. I think we have the navigation bar has a blue. If it doesn't, then I have to go with a different background, or I can just use something very light. but let me just do this first. If it's not okay, then I will add some padding. But before that, let's remove the underline that comes with the link by default, which is, let me take this also so that you can see it. So the text color is the same. So that is why we are not seeing it. So for now, let me put it on this first so that we can see it. So you can see that underline that comes with it by default. So that is what I want to turn off. So I'll say text decoration. I'll say what? None. Text decoration, none. If I come here, you can see that I've turned on that. Now I want to space. You will also notice that between this write-up and the box, there's no enough space. So that is internal spacing, which is called what? Padding, which we have already learned. So padding, I will say, okay, I want padding of 12 ps by 14 ps. And then if I go back there, you see that I have reasonable space. And then if I like, I want to change the text color now to, let me put it, sorry, the background to black. And then the text color, I've not added color. Okay, I've not added color. So the text color should be, maybe should go with white so that to balance other color, let's say. Okay, but now we have to create spaces lapping on this. Even this, there should be space between this and this. This one should go down a little, and then this one should go down. So let me talk to this one first. That is margin bottom or margin top. Okay, let's try margin top. Remember, we have encountered something like this, and I gave us a suggestion that you try from different angles. So margin top, let me say I want, depends on how the object is laid out. So margin top did not work. Now remember the last time we solved this, since we were talking to this, we are trying to push this down and it's not pushing. So why don't we say this p tag should give space at the bottom between it and this? So this way, because that one is not moving because there's no other element. So we'll add this. If I add this, if I take this from here and I add it to where the p tag is, which is this, do something like this, and then but I will change this to what? Bottom. We change this to bottom. That should be able to give us that space. So you can see these are logic. Now the same thing here, I will not talk to this A and then add margin bottom. So I will just copy this same line of code because I want equal amount of space, and then I will add it to where I am talking to the A. I'm talking to where, put it where I'm talking to A, then check. Let's see. Good. So you have reasonable, but it's too much. That 30 is too much. Let me put 20. Put 20. If I go back, okay. So I think everything look better now. Then you can increase the size of that write-up. So I can say font size. I can say let me use an average of 20 ps just to fine-tune size of the based on the size of the button. You can decide to add hover effect. All these things are things we have been taught. All right, so let's assume I have my about us page. It's very simple like this. So when somebody come here, they see this. When they go to the about us page, they see different content. But finally, I would like to use a beautiful image that speak somehow the services or as the general background, or I leave it like this. So let's see if we have some images already. So let me just use one. So I can just go to, in your HTML document, you only have one body. So I can just say body. There's no point of class in it. Let's say body. And then I will say background image. Remember, that is the property, background image. And then I will add URL because I want to call external item, and then slash inside, contact your image folder. So let me I'm just showing us how to do this. So if it doesn't go, you can change it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is to convert the image to 1 because it duplicated because the image is smaller than the expected space to cover. So I will now bring in another property which is part of what we have learned when we were learning tag only. So I will now say background repeats. I will say what? No repeat. So it will return everything to 1. Then the next challenge is to allow this to cover the entire document. So I will now bring in another property, background size. Background size, so I will say what? Cover. So if you go back, you see that what? You have this. Now, the question is, this particular image background is a kind of contradicting other things. Yes, we have a touch of yellow here or gold here, but how is it affecting the write-up? Yes, we can, if it's okay with the navbar, is it okay with the text? These are the questions we should ask. So where that is not working, you can go and get a better image, an image that is cool, that is not too shouting, and at the same time, it has a way of speaking your services. So let me go back there and look for other background. So I will just say what? Tech. I'll just say tech. And then from here, I'll just go to image. So let me see if I can get cool background that is not too shouting, that will say allow those content to show. So I can go to design to check for different category if I can find it where I was before. Okay, so let's say I want to use this. I want to see how this will go. So I will right click on it as usual, select save image as, then locate your project folder on desktop. I'm looking for the name of the website, which is Ehen, and then go to image section and then give it another name, let's say BG4 or whatever. And then I think we would have even used this. Now, I think the one I am working with is not that one. Hold on, let me take it again. The one I'm working with, the one in the document. So I will search for the same folder, open it up, go to image, then okay, let me just save both of them. Save them here. So go back to your designing page, then we are going to update just this place. So slash again, then go back there. You should be able to see it here. So if I go back and I check. Yeah, so you can see what I'm saying. You can see that this goes with what we are doing. At least with this, we are able to see it's cool, and the concept is blending with the write-up. They are seeing the write-up. No one is contradicting each other. The color we have here are part of, we have a touch of those colors on our navigation bar. So this is how you can. So you can take your time. Go to contact. The contact, go and clear off everything you have in the body. Just like, let me clear that one off again. So remember the logic. I have developed this one. Remember that we first of all make all the pages. So we have updated this one content. We have this content already. So I can choose, okay, let me go and build my contact. As I want to start building my contact, the first thing I will do is to delete all the body section first. So starting from here, remember we are leaving the navigation, so, and the footer. So your own, if you have your footer design, do not delete your footer. So my own, I have not designed my footer in this particular one. So if I go back to the front and now check, I have this. When they log in and they click here, you can see the way the structure is different. I can decide, remember something that we did the other time, but because we have constrained it, when we get to JavaScript now using Bootstrap, we can now say, okay, these pictures can be changing simultaneously while they are here. After some second, it will show another picture. After another time, show another picture. So depending, but this content can remain the way it is. All right. So now I can now come here and say, okay, what plan do I have for this page? Now you now take a look at the structure you have already, layout you have already used. You have used card layout where you have 3 cards per row. You now come here. Okay, this is just like 1 row and one column. Okay, so my contact page, I can use this same format. Honestly, I can use this same format. But what I'm going to do is this. See what I'm going to do. I can go to, not saving now, I'm going to About Us and copy everything that I've done here. I just feel that will go with the contact. Yeah, copy everything I've done here. Then go to the contact page. Remember that you must have stated where it's going to start from, so I'll just paste it here. Now, the CSS that is styling this has not been linked to this page. So that I can inherit the CSS also. I will just come here. I will just say link. And then call that same CSS so that it can style those content the way they are. I will just tell you where you are going to change. So go to CSS, then add this. So which means that if I go to the front end, contact page is having the same display. Now this is only what I am going to change. What I'm going to change is what? This picture, I'm going to change it to form. In fact, the whole of this, the picture, the About Us, I will change it to form that they will fill. What I'm actually interested in, what? This background. I love it. I want it to be consistent. Sometimes it go like that. The background should be consistent while the content can vary. So what I'm going to do is that I will just come back here to the contact page and then clear this. Clear this. I am leaving this image. Sorry, I'm clearing the image. In fact, okay, let me see. Clearing the whole of this. Since I have, okay, no. I'm not clearing. Yes, I'm clearing the whole of this in my HTML. Let me check. But in the CSS, I still have the background there. So the background is still there because we communicated it in the CSS. So I will now just come and create my form. Remember, I thought by now we'll have even ended the class, but as if I'm enjoying designing the site. I'm even helping us all now. I wanted to go and, do some calculation. So now remember how we created the form. So I'll say field set. All this now I wanted us to factor them out because we have been taught. Then wrap everything. And then you will now start declaring your div. Remember, just to convert them to what? Block form. Wrap your input and your label in div. I know it has been a while for some of us. So I will just say label for, let's say first name, and then come here and write it in full. First name. Let me join that together. Then come here and say input type is text. Then remember, I will say name. Remember, name is for back end purpose, but let's work with it. Name. The name should always go with whatever you use as your label, which is what? F name. And then you want a placeholder that is a text that they will see by default that will give them an idea of what they are expected to enter there. So let's say enter your first name, for example, or you just put EG, put the format of the name there. All right, so if I go back to the front end, you see my form. You see my form. Remember, this is the div that we are creating this in. That is the form, rather the div, the field set. That is what. Now, before this field set, or immediately after the field set, I want to define the heading. Remember, we use legend, if you can still remember, just to give the field set, which is what groups all your form elements. The title, I will say this is a contact form. So that when they are filling it, they will know the type of form. See, as soon as I added it, you can see it here. Right? So the form is 100%. We use CSS to reduce it and put it at the center, just like the way we have that picture and the H2 and the P tag display. So I will just copy this just to save my time. Copy this, Control C, just to have more input, and then change this one to maybe middle name. Then I'll change it to M name. Then of course here will be M name, right? So enter your middle name. Enter your middle name. I think every other thing should be okay. So as usual, something is wrong. Which of the sets? Okay. So paste again. Then let's say this one is states or gender rather. Let's say gender. Now is sex. So sex. And for gender, remember that we have to put break here because we want to create 3 different genders. So here we change to, and we want to give them option. They can only pick. So if you can still remember, I'll put radio here. And then you put radio here. Name, we also change to name can still be. Then we have to bring in value, because if they choose the back end language, need to know which one is going to submit. So this one is for male. And then remember that you have to write that mail outside. If not, they are not going to see it. Remember all this. I know you must have used them to do Christmas. Go like flourish. So you have it here. Now we need to add break here. We need to add break here so that it will take it to the next line. Good. So the option should be under it. So I'll just copy that format. I'll just copy the whole of this line, just this line, because we are still inside that div. Sorry, yes, we are still inside that div. Just have to create other options. So I put my cursor here and press Ctrl V. Put the cursor there, Ctrl V. Then this remain the same. This remain the same. But here the value will change. The value will change. This one value will change to order. Why this one value will change to female. And then here will also be female. Then here will also be order. I think let me check. Here we change to order. I hope we are getting it. Please let somebody unmute. and talk back. Let me know. Oh, we are getting the logic. Are we getting it?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so I just want to, so you can go ahead and populate your form the way you want it. But let me just add submit button and end it here. You can do the rest. I'm only trying to refresh the memory. Coming. Okay, so let me just add another input. So that can come outside this input. And then type will be submit. And then I want them to see put value. I want them to see, okay, let them see the submit. And value should still be submit. So if I go to the front end now and check, so we have our form. So remember I said at the end of the day, let's just do just one styling. You can do the rest. So since we connected the CSS there, so there's no point of me creating another CSS for contact. Sorry, yeah, for contact, we use the same CSS. So I will just say form, just to change the width and move it to the middle of the page. Width should be 50%, 70%, 70%. 70% is too much. Let's put it 50%. So let's check whether that is responded first. Good. Now let's move it to the center of the page. The same logic, we just say margin, margin auto, margin auto. See that is now at the center. So you now do your normal styling. So you go and consult your notes on how we style our form, how we added padding, how we start the input, how we use the input selector. So please, before the next class, I want to see that all the pages have their content. You can see that the little time I've spent with us now, I've been able to build this, and then
Sir.
we can, yes?
Okay, this form, this thing that we learned that time is for about us.
Which one?
The form, dot HTML. We are going to use it in this about us.
You are using it in contacts.
Okay, only contact.
Yes, contacts. That is where you use form. Form are
Okay.
usually in contact pages because
Okay.
you want them to contact you.
Okay, let them drop their contact information.
Yes, yes. So
Oh,
your form should be well styled. Go and open your notes and check what you learned on that form. I just did this one just to refresh our memory. So I wouldn't want to listen to any excuse, please. You people have enjoyed too much grace if you failed on this class. So please go and sit down, create your website, let your homepage have content, reasonable content, let your about us have content, let contact have content, let service have content, let gallery have content. That is your project before Thursday. In fact, I will ask for it. If I cannot get it, that class may not hold. So please, let's go and start working on that. Any question before we end the class? Okay, so there's no question. Let me start converting the video.
No, sir.
Have a nice day.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Oh, my own.